Welcome everyone. This is our podcast. It's called the Turtle Theory. I don't even know the name of our own podcast. That's crazy. So this is our podcast, the Turtle Theory. We're gonna be discussing sort of like different. I don't want to say philosophical stuff because we're
Different
not really.
ideas. These
Yeah,
classify as ideas.
ideas
Ideas,
pretty much.
ideas, ideas. Yeah, I mean, okay, so some background. Me and Elkin, New York City, well, I was born in New York City. Elkin, you can tell them more about your origins if you
I
would
don't want
like.
to. I don't want to for
Okay, he does not
confidential
want to.
reasons.
He does not want to. That is absolutely fine and dandy. In New York City, Elkin also lives in New York City. So you might ask yourself, why did we create this podcast? Or the origin of our name of this podcast, which also has a very interesting story. Elkin, I'd
Indeed.
like you to choose which one you'd like me to prevail upon, and then you can attack the other.
All right. I think that you would do a better job describing how our name came to be.
Yes, I agree. So our name, it's a very funny story actually. No, okay. So it was March 2018. Me and Elkin were freshmen in the Brooklyn Latin School. Me and him decided that, oh, there's this lip sync competition where you go up on stage, represent your entire class, which is ninth grade, or as we call it, class four. We go up on stage and we lip sync to one of our favorite songs, PG, of course, because it's a school event. We see that me and him, we have very similar music tastes, which is, I presume, one of the reasons we have bonded, and we sign up. A couple days later, remember this is March, our principal, Miss Billy, calls us into her room. I was in Latin class at that time, and she's like, okay, so you guys are the only, Discipuli students that signed up for this competition, March Madness. And then so one thing led to another. She asked us to make a name for our group. I had a turtle at the time. His name was Squirtle. He was very intelligent, but long story short, I said, okay, let's make the name of our group the Turtles, and that's how the name was born. Elkin, if you would like to touch on the other topic, of which I forgot, you can do so.
Yeah, of course. So the name of the turtles, as you know, that's the backstory of like that specific name. So last night, actually, this was a very rushed. Well, not rushed. We did think a lot about this.
Spontaneous, that is a word that we could use to describe the creation of this podcast. Spontaneous.
That's actually a very good word, and a word that we're gonna be sort of like it's gonna be a theme, like English
Or it might
class. This is
not,
a
you don't
theme.
know.
All right, so this is a theme for our podcast, pretty much. Like this is a spontaneous thing. We're gonna be discussing various topics. It's gonna be a lot of things, but it's gonna be interesting, and I hope that we can make it, the best it can be. A lot of these things are very obscure, not a lot of info about them, but we want to bring them to light. That's sort of something that we want to do. We decided to call ourselves the Turtle Theory because we already had that name of the turtles, and we wanted to connect it to what we are doing. I was sort of looking around the internet, like turtles and like philosophy and stuff like that, and I found that there was this theory which we're actually going to be discussing today, which is called turtles all the way down. It's a very philosophical look into how the world was created, or like an existential sort of like question. But we're going to be talking a little bit more about that later on. Yeah, Farhan, do you want to say anything else?
So, if you would allow me to, good sir, I would like to explain the turtle theory to our dear viewers, if I could. So, the turtle theory in itself based, well, there are a lot of conceptualizations of this theory that the world is based upon a turtle, whether it be elephants upon a turtle, or whether it be on top of a turtle on top of another turtle, which is again on top of another. Cycle of enlarging turtles continues indefinitely. Whether it be that or that, it it simply focuses on the fact that the things that underlie what we see may be more obscure than we could possibly imagine, is the way I'd like to interpret this theory. Elkin, if you would like to add on, that'd be magnificent. But yeah,
That That's very interesting, Farhai. Very good language you got there.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you. I yeah,
we're not very we're not very qualified or very,
I know
yeah, not at
words
all.
sometimes, but that's about it.
And the words
Oh,
are the key. All right, this is pretty much the basis of the topic for this week. The first time I actually saw this idea of like turtles all the way down, what I was reading a book
hmm.
called A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Rest in peace, that man.
Greatest, one of the
Uh,
greatest minds of the 21st century. May he rest in peace. But yeah, we can
I
talk about
would
it later.
I would actually argue perhaps the greatest mind of the 21st
Okay,
century.
listen, I don't want to
Um,
start an argument, but you have to consider like there are other minds that are not Stephen Hawking. That I don't think we can classify any mind as the greatest because all minds specialize in different things. Perhaps that is straying
the
astray.
question of like the greatest mind would be like what's the basis to it? Like is it like a IQ, common
Uh,
sense, or just like words?
so to
I don't know.
what metric do we measure this idea of the greatest mind?
Well, I mean, it this would be a question of like, so let's say for example that the greatest mind you would qualify them as, let's say, highest IQ. But then you ask, why do we qualify the greatest mind as the one with the highest IQ? And then you have a different answer. But then another skeptic might say, oh, yeah, but why? And then you continue down that ladder of like
No,
why? And
okay.
yeah, Farhan?
I have a question to propose to you. If what is greater, to be able to answer a question or to pose a question of which, you know, has seemingly no answer? Huh? Does that make sense? Please confirm.
So what you're saying is sort of like a paradoxical sort of like question, right? Like a
Yeah.
question which has no answer, but even if it did have an answer, it's just like the answer doesn't make any sense in relation to the question. Are you describing sort of like
Okay.
the chicken, which came first, the chicken and the egg
Oh, I see.
sort
I
of
see how
question?
you really slid in there, right? You really went head first into the chicken and the egg theory. All right. So I see. What I'm saying is, it's two different things to pose an answer and pose a question, and whether or not they lie upon each other, like turtles may lie upon each other. We may perceive it as good or bad. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, okay, so the idea of a question, it builds upon other questions and answers, just as ideas build upon other ideas, as stated in our description. By the way, if you check out our description of the podcast, The Turtle Theory, of which you are listening to right now, idea upon idea, we kind of ourselves stand upon things that we were already told, right? Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Just as
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
just as the turtle theory suggests, turtles stand upon themselves in increasing volume. It seems as though everything it has no end. There is no end to the turtles, as every turtle has another turtle beneath it. Right, right.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would I would say that it's not necessarily just turtles. It's like, okay, so like the question of God comes into this as well.
Oh my
So if you
God.
we're gonna be getting a little bit religious over here, but like the question of God, pretty much, I- you have an initial creator of like absolutely everything. But so if even if you like if like you're an atheist, you do believe at least in like a beginning, the Big Bang, like that initial singularity,
Hmm.
which like just
Yeah.
started everything.
I'd like okay, so this idea of an atheist. I was also thinking about this while thinking about the total theory and stuff. If you think about the obscurity of like the theory that is proposed, you you also take into fact, oh, the flat earth theory, that's also extremely just it doesn't make any sense at all. But then you have to
Hmm.
consider perspective because to a person that was born into a family of which raised him or her an atheist, we see that the idea of God may become almost unfathomable, just as to us a a species of which now see the world as round, the idea of it being on top of a turtle seems almost unfathomable, right?
Yeah, definitely. Even if when you think about it, that's actually a very interesting point to bring up. When you think about it, even like the idea of the Big Bang, like
Bang.
we don't necessarily question that. Like, how can something come from absolutely nothing? And we don't question that. It's something that we completely agree with, at least most of us, unless you're like very religious and you believe that God created everything. And even then, that's a completely different argument. The
Hmm.
absurdity of something coming from nothing, that might sound that's absurd to some people. Like if I tell you right now, I'm gonna make an apple appear in my hand, you're not gonna believe me. Like it's illogical for an apple to appear out of nowhere in my
It
hand.
is.
So how does an entire universe come from just a single singularity, which wasn't even there to begin with? Like how did it happen?
It's all about observable patterns. Say I flip a coin, it lands on heads or tails. But never in our life have we considered the fact that maybe if the person that first flipped a coin, you know, or first witnessed something like a kid, he doesn't know what's
Hmm.
going to happen when the coin is flipped. He doesn't know. He's like, oh, maybe
Hmm.
the coin turns into a dinosaur, the coin gets bigger, the coin explodes, the coin something. We we see it as patterns, everything. I feel like.
Hmm. So what you're saying is like and only like possible outcomes, like a specific number of possible outcomes. So with the creation of the universe, the outcome from that was of course the universe itself. But like with the flip of a coin, we always know that it's going to be either heads or tails. We never consider any other possibility because that's the only possibility, not the only possibility, the only reality that we've actually seen before,
Wait,
the
wait.
only reality that we've been shown. But who's to say that if I flip a coin, a dinosaur's not going to come out, right?
Essentially,
I think that's what you're getting at.
what if the Big Bang was like the beginning of flipping a coin, right? And
Hmm.
then like, okay, say the universe just dies, like it implodes upon itself, it just ceases to exist. That would be the
Hmm.
coin reaching a landing. And then what we don't know could happen is the coin flipping again. What if we ourselves were the coin? Do you understand what I'm saying? We ourselves are the coin,
Hmm.
and we take this journey from beginning to the peak to the end, and then we do it all over again without actually realizing we had already taken this journey. What if the Big Bang was in fact us just reliving a moment of which already had happened, yet we do not know it had happened because it was impossible for us to perceive it because we have never we're not we didn't exist before its occurrence.
So I'm pretty sure that's an actual theory that's been proposed before. Like
What?
once the universe dies, everything just starts up again. And then like it's a
Ah,
continuous, like it's happening over and over and over again. And every single time the same thing is happening. We always die at the same time. We always make the same choices. We always, fall in love with the same people. The universe always dies at the exact same point and it always continues. But I think connecting it back, because we kind of went off topic with the turtle thing, but everything about this connects. Connecting it back to that, the turtle theory is sort of like an analogy of like
connection.
the
I feel like.
idea. Yeah, yeah, it's a connection. Yes, I believe. Farhan, what was the name of that idea? The
Oh, okay. So before this
yeah.
podcast, we did some research upon the turtle theory, just for full transparency, and we came across this idea in physics, I believe quantum physics, where it's called the infinite ingress, where one truth, quote unquote truth, is not ironically set in ground unless it is again supplied with another truth, of which is supplied with another truth and another truth and another truth, infinitely progressing. So yeah, I believe that's what you were referencing.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
thank you. So that's sort of like an analogy for the turtle theory, like a turtle standing upon another turtle upon another turtle. As I was saying, the first time that I came upon this was in the book A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking, where he talks about a woman who came up to him after a lecture and she told him that his idea of like the universe and cosmology was wrong, that the universe was not truly what he said it was, but rather a flat earth with a turtle that was holding the earth on its back. And then when he asked,
Huh.
"Oh, but what's under the turtle? Is it like ground or something like that?" She asked, "Oh, that's a very clever question. It's actually turtles all the way down." That's the first time that I heard about this sort of like theory. And this is an analogy for just that what Farhan just described, where we have a truth, which is the turtle, like the topmost turtle, and then you continue going down of like a question of why. Why is the sky blue? Because of this, but why? But why? But why? But why? And I was sort of getting at this before, but yeah, that's connecting it. The connection with this
Hmm.
to what we were talking about before is, if you do have these connecting universes, like when a universe ends and another one begins.
I'd like to emphasize this idea that history repeats itself, which just popped in my head as a possible connection because we see that just as the turtles repeatedly get bigger and bigger, or not, as they go down this slope of that of which carries the flat Earth in this hypothetical situation, just as
Mhm.
though history repeats itself infinitely, as we can see. We even see it now, right? Like with this virus, and I mean, it's the comparison's been made before. This is nothing original. The Spanish flu, and then before that, the plague. Things seem to repeat itself, and then we also see, repetitions of fights against political, ideologies or race, for example. It seems as though events such as those never end. They keep repeating themselves, solving themselves, and then raising more questions about themselves, in which raises more conflict or solution. Hmm.
That's interesting, because
Hmm.
there have been patterns observed in nature before, like even in the most fundamental laws of nature and physics. Nature loves patterns. So the for example, like with the speed of light, that's a fixed number. It's a constant. It's a pattern, pretty much.
Yeah.
But
Light is essentially a pattern. It's a wave of photons, up, down, sine wave, whatever. Okay, go on. Sorry.
yeah, yeah,
Um.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. But is are we as human beings, because we tend to think of ourselves as like separate from nature, because we think of ourselves so highly. Are we as human beings also falling prey to this fundamental law of like nature liking patterns, and that's the reason why history repeats itself? That's the reason why eventually, like,
Hmm.
ideologically, our history is just turtles all the way
So
down.
you're
It's a
saying,
continuing pattern.
so you're saying that we have no control. The only thing that has control are the turtles. The turtles control everything.
Well,
The
I
turtles.
am saying that something
I'm saying
is
that turtles are nature,
controlling.
by the way, if that wasn't abundant.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that. I get that. I get that. But
Bro, turtles, bro. That's
then the
crazy.
question arises. It is crazy. It is crazy. But then the question arises from this, that who who or why, more specifically, why does nature like patterns? You have a question of why does history repeat itself, and then we sort of like come up with an answer that, by the way, we're not even sure is like actually
Hmm.
factually correct. But even those non-factual, possibly non-correct answers, even those answers lead us to more questions, and then the cycle
Okay,
continues.
let me ask you a question,
So,
right? Like, apart from the fact that this can go to a scale of which is cosmic, you personally, say you have a goal
mhm,
set in mind. Yeah. You look up
yeah,
in the night sky, you
yeah,
see a star. The star is going, and you're like, wow,
mhm,
you know what? I'm gonna do this. Like, say, for me when I was little, I had this book. I wanted to memorize the book. I was like, you know what? From tomorrow, I'm gonna memorize this entire book because I want to. But then the morning comes and the idea flees you. The idea flees you. You no longer think about memorizing the book. You no longer think about going for a run. You no longer think about learning the piano. Instead, you're trapped in the cycle until through some matter you break it, and then the cycle continues again. Has that ever happened where you have a goal set for yourself, but then you fall into the cycle?
I think it's happened to everyone at least once or many, many times. Where, well, let's say for example, I wanted to, as one of my projects for school, I wanted to start jogging, and I wanted to start doing it. I really, really wanted to, but like it's this sort of like invisible force, or like not necessarily like a physical force, like a mental force.
I too, I too have tried. That I had, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, dude, I think everyone has been wanting to start jogging, especially after COVID.
Hmm.
There's like this like not a physical force, a mental force, which is keeping you from starting to do something new, because you've been accustomed to the pattern of, oh, I wake up, I eat breakfast, then I like watch Netflix all day, and I don't really do anything else. You like these patterns,
Hmm.
and actually, what comes to mind right now is Newton's law of an object in motion tends to stay in motion unless stopped by an outside force. I believe it was. I might have to
Yeah, I
watch
mean,
that
yeah,
thing
yeah. You
completely.
you got the idea right. You got the idea right.
Again, discussing like the fundamental laws of nature and how they like to be constant. We humans as well like to be constant. We like to keep a schedule. We like to keep a routine. But once we try to break that routine, we really need a lot of mental power in order to even slightly break away from
Think
it.
about this. Are we actually breaking a routine? Like ever actually? No, listen. Are we breaking the routine, or are we just modifying the routine? Because once you start a routine, you in fact you're just doing it again and again. What if we're replacing the routine? In fact, we're never actually breaking anything. We're just going from one to the other. There's no breaking. We just change, but only after that routine is finished, and we can't get any value out of it anymore, or lack thereof. Huh.
That's the thing. Again, connecting it to the turtles because everything comes in a circle around here.
Oh,
That's the thing.
like the flat Earth, right? God,
No, 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 no.
yeah.
Although good connection.
Oh,
Uh,
phenomenal connection.
I think once you have like a routine set up and then you break away from it, you don't necessarily break away from having a routine itself. You just modified it, like Florian said.
Hmm.
But then you keep on going with that cycle until you modify that cycle and go on to the different cycle. In reality, there's no way of like doing something different every single day. There's always going to be one constant in your life,
Bro,
unless you were like rich and you can just do whatever you want. But even
bro,
then, there's still some things you can't break away from.
there's. I feel like it's all just a cycle. We all end up in the same destination, no matter what we do. In fact, I was watching an episode of SpongeBob recently. SpongeBob, yeah, SpongeBob. So SpongeBob, right? Episode SB129. Maybe you have heard of it or not. So Squidward. So to those not familiar with the with SpongeBob, I really wish you are. There is a character Squidward. Squidward does not like SpongeBob because SpongeBob and Patrick annoy him constantly throughout the day. Squidward wishes for nothing but peace and bliss in his life, but SpongeBob just simply will not let that happen. So what Squidward does, is he works at Krusty Krab with SpongeBob. He goes to the freezer to get the Krabby Patties, stays there, and then he freezes. Little do we know, do we get an interlude? You know those famous SpongeBob interludes. 2,000 years
Yeah,
later, or whatever.
yeah,
2,000 years
yeah.
later, and then now we see Squidward fall down in a brick of ice. Everything is chrome, and Squidward himself, he is having trouble with contemplating, or not contemplating, accepting the fact that he has been thrusted into the future where there are in fact three SpongeBobs and three Pratchicks. You can imagine how this is a nightmare for Squidward himself. He's somewhere or another. He finds a time machine. He finds a time machine. He goes in the time machine, and the time machine, there's a lever. This lever goes from future to past. He tries to bring it down from future to past, but he breaks the lever. What happens? The time machine proceeds to put Squidward in the space of simply know there's no okay. So me in time right now, as of now, yes, you are
Yes,
somewhere,
yes.
I am somewhere. We are in time and space. Okay, so Squidward, however, once the lever broke, he is no longer associated with a time or place. In fact, the time machine is no longer a place. He's in a sort of non-existent realm, for lack of a better term. And he proceeds. So now you might assume, oh wow, this is amazing, right? Wow, Squidward finally has this peace and bliss and quiet that he so desperately desired for. But he, as as Squidward realizes the implications of being alone forever, he gets increasingly and increasingly terrified, because what is a life without connection to others, right? We're built upon connection to others, just as the turtles are interconnected to each other. We see as though Squidward, he panics, he runs around, he reaches no destination, although he's looking for a destination. Meanwhile, so after hopeless running and running, he comes to the conclusion that he does indeed, although begrudgingly, miss SpongeBob. And as soon as he admits that, he's thrown out of this realm of nothingness and into this present day. Now you may be asking, how does this connect to the turtle theory? To which I am also asking myself the same thing. The turtle theory implies that we all although see forward into nothing, we are also on top of something else in which we cannot identify, yet we are immobile without it.
Mm,
We simply cannot stand our
mm,
ground. So say you're in the eyes of the turtle, on the turtle of which is directly beneath the flat earth. What do you see? You see space. You can't look down. Turtles
mm,
can't look down, right? Turtles can't look
mhm,
down, but if he were to look down, what he'd see an infinite number of turtles of increasing volume. But he feels the turtles. He knows that without the
mm.
turtles, not consciously, but he knows subconsciously that without these turtles, he would be falling and falling forever. And without that, where is he? So to this I say, without one another, we are really nothing as we stand upon each other, arm to arm, foot to foot. That is all.
Wow. Wow. I did not see that connection at all, but that's actually very, very good and very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm, I I was thinking about it in this way, like Squidward is like he's got used to the cycle, and even though he hates it, he still misses it because there's been a change in the cycle once he's put in like this white space. We are, as human beings, we're, most of us at least, are afraid of change. That's
I
something
agree.
that
I agree.
yeah, yeah, that's something that happens quite a lot. We're afraid of change. We're afraid of breaking the cycle because we're going into an unknown territory and we have no idea what's in front of us.
I do hate vegetables.
That's a very interesting. Sorry,
I hate vegetables. I
you
say
ate
no. I
vegetables?
hate vegetables. In fact, why? Because it's a change. It's a change from my regular diet. My regular diet rarely ever consists of anything that has vegetables in it. So whenever I see a piece of broccoli, my mind erupts into flames. Like, oh my god, what is this doing here? I start going to panic. Like, oh my god, how do I get this broccoli out of here? I don't even want to touch the broccoli. I hate broccoli, but we have to learn that broccoli exists, and whether or not broccoli just as change is also good for us, right?
Yes, yes, I agree. I
Yes.
agree with that. Connecting, now that we're on the topic of shows, this is going to be a very, very brief sort of point because we do have to go on. We do have to move on soon. We're trying to keep these episodes from around 30 to 45 minutes. We understand our voice is not something that you might want to listen to for that long.
I wouldn't say that.
Um,
My voice is absolutely magnificent, but people have things to do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I wanted to quickly connect it to the show Dark. I was trying to get Farhan to watch it.
Dark.
I don't know if you did it.
Listen, I will never
It's
ever take a recommendation from anyone seriously. I have to be completely forefront. Like, I just can't. Like, if you recommend me a show, I'm literally not gonna watch it, or a song. It's just not gonna happen. But go on, Elkin.
I really did think you would like it. There is
Probably.
a plot point. I'm not gonna spoil it for anyone listening or for you, Farhan, because hopefully one day you will watch it. But one of the plot points in this show is like it has to do with time travel,
Hmm.
and it follows the concept of like no matter what you do, even if you like can time travel, all of your choices have been already pre-made. There is a cycle, and even when you try to break the cycle, you're only contributing to it.
Hmm.
That's sort of like the point of the show. One way in which you can break the cycle, which is stopping time. Once you stop time, then the universe sort of like can't fight you
Bro,
back, and you have like a very small chance
bro.
of fighting the cycle. Yes.
What if time is the turtle, bro? Think about that. Think about that.
Hmm.
Time is the turtle, cause the world lays upon the turtle. The world is time. The turtles are time, right? Turtles are time.
We actually did have a discussion about this. Like the way that this podcast came to be is because that we have these conversations a lot. It's just that we don't record them or anything like that. But we did on a previous discussion, which was not recorded, we did talk about this. If you have an object, it's 2 inches by 2 inches,
Right.
but that object only exists for a period of 0 seconds. Does this object actually exist?
I would argue no.
So if you're talking about the turtles in that sense, that we need the turtles in the same. We need the turtles. Yes, it's very important. Save the turtles.
Bro. Hashtag save the bro. Save the turtles, bro. Save the turtles.
Save the turtles. Yes, yes. If you save the turtles, you save time and space. Of course. Mm, but we need the turtles in order to like not fall out of like this abyss, because we are being supported by the turtles, just like our world and like the real world is being kept going forward by time. Without time, there's no existence. Without time, there is absolutely nothing. And the time itself started when that
uh,
singularity back in the Big Bang just blew
so
up and started going everywhere.
without the turtles, we are nothing. Just as without time, you're nothing. I assume.
That's deep. That's deep.
Crux of your hypothesis. I assume.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think that we've gotten quite a good discussion for at least for our first episode.
We have elapsed our
Um,
time here, ladies and gentlemen. Elkin, would you agree?
I agree. I think we got to be going right now. Like I said, we want to keep these brief. Just closing statements right now, very very quickly. We're gonna be trying to put up weekly episodes for you guys. There's gonna be a lot of topics we're gonna be discussing. Our schedule, we still need to work that out. We're probably gonna be doing this later after this recording. If you have any suggestions for topics of the week, I believe there's a feature in this app.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah, just give us a voice message, a topic, any topic. We'll research it, and if we find it interesting, then we might put it in the podcast, and we'll give you credit, of course.
guys,
If there were any technical mistakes,
well,
we're still figuring this out ourselves, but hopefully it's gonna get better
in fact,
in future
we are we
episodes.
are we are
Anything you
we
want
are
to say, Farhan?
literally the most inexperienced people to be doing something like this. So if you did listen throughout, which first of all I highly doubt you did because we really did go out there. But if you did, thank you, and that's very appreciated. If you have any feedback, as Elkin said, that would be cool. That's our podcast for you. I think that'll be it.
Yeah. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. We're gonna be seeing you guys next
Oh
week.
yeah.
Different topic. We're gonna be figuring it out. But thank you so much for staying. If you did until the end, just like Farhan, I doubt any of you did.
Facts.
But we might have to change our bio in like 20 episodes. We might be experienced by then. But we'll be seeing you guys next week.
We're never gonna
Have
be experienced. Nothing is ever experienced. We always have so much to learn. Okay, bye. Good night, everyone. Close it. Close it. Close it.
indeed.
Close it. Close it. Close it. Close it.